Welcome, everybody. My name is Matt Pearsall. I am the community manager here at Committee for Children, and I am so glad to be able to welcome you all to our March Second Step Community Spotlight. This is a moment where we get to take a few minutes to meet some of the Second Step educators who are out in the world. Whoa, sorry, technical stuff there. Where was I? Take a few minutes to meet some of the Second Step educators who are doing work in schools all across the country, supporting students in their social emotional learning. I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. Committee for Children's offices sit on the unceded traditional lands of the Coast Salish people, specifically the first people of Seattle, Washington, the Duwamish tribe. As we honor the Duwamish people and their ancestors, it's also important that we consider our place in the past, present, and future history of the indigenous peoples of our region, as well as how we can best support them. Thank you. Now, I'd like to introduce today's guest, Melinda Carter. She's a behavior specialist from Irving ISD and a fantastic Second Step champion. Welcome, Melinda. Can you say hi and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up becoming involved with social emotional learning?
Hi, my name is Melinda Carter, and I am a behavioral specialist in Irving ISD, which is in Irving, Texas, and it's right outside Dallas, actually. It's a bigger district, right? But kind of we have a real like a tight knit small community. And I started working using SEL, social emotional learning, probably about 10 to 15 years ago, actually. And it was on a broader scale. Now it's more on a, I would say on a continuum in our district right now. So yeah, I love it. I love Second Step and I love social emotional learning. It's one of my passions.
Cool. And can you tell us a little bit about some of the work you're doing? What is something that you're working on right now to support student social emotional learning, you and or your colleagues that you're really excited about?
Okay, so right now, and what's really cool is this actually started before the pandemic, so it really lends itself to leverage, what we're already doing. And so in our past classes, which is Positive Approaches to Student Success, it's a program within our district that we utilize, and our students have access to the elementary and middle school Second Step program. And so not only is my behavior team, we are charged with helping implement that within the classrooms. Our teachers and our TAs, and which you might call para, are also responsible for that as well. So they do that digitally, but also where they have the actual kits in front of them, and the puppets for kinder and first.
That's cool. So,
yes.
So can you talk a little bit more about your past program? How does Second Step kind of fit into the overall program?
Right. So our past program serves our students who are, kind of labeled, I wouldn't even say labeled but they typically have emotional struggles, right? And emotional behavioral struggles. And so we really want to focus on the social emotional piece, because not having that stability and sustainability throughout your day, you really struggle with all facets of your life, right? And so just kind of providing that stable foundation for them. And it's offered, like I said, K through 8. Then we have another platform that we use for our high school kiddos, but even though you can adapt Second Step for high school as well, which I know you know that, and everyone else in our community knows that. But the biggest thing, again, and we involve their families as well, because there's a family side to Second Step, right? Which is super cool, because there's things that we can involve our community in, but then also to build on that, our district at large, they've initiated like a wellness, they call it the wellness toolkit. And so you get they have it's called In the Know. And for example, like we just got an email today that talking about the wellness toolkit. Right. And it just ties in very nicely of how we want to really promote the self-awareness and self-care, not just for our students, but for our staff, because what we're all being charged to do and asked to do on a daily basis. It's a hard job, right? I mean, so
it's a very hard job.
Yeah. So it's very cool to kind of, put a nice little bow on it per se.
That's great.
Yeah.
So when using Second Step in the past program, it sounds like this is a tier 2 intervention for kids that are working on behavior issues.
Yeah, so it's really tier 3 because it's really offered for special ed, right? And so, but again, taking those, because when they go into the classroom, their gen ed teachers also are aware of the social emotional learning curriculum that they're getting, because they also have social skills goals. So it's really, I guess I would say starting at the foundational level within that PASS class, but then it branches out to be more of a school community curriculum, right? Because not just one person gets to hear about it.
Yeah.
And it just improves student outcomes, right?
How do you adapt? We get asked, I see people talking about this all the time about how to using Second Step in a targeted program like the PASS program. People who are intrigued by it but aren't sure about how to adapt the program. How do you what adaptations have you made to the Second Step program to make it work in that environment?
Well, you know, that's a great question. And I actually get those questions from my teachers and the paras as well, because, you know, it's not like this, it is systemic, right? And its approach, but they want you to start in the beginning, right? But you don't really have to. Like if your kid, right, it's based off goals. But again, if your student, let's say they're facing, they're not being very assertive, they're struggling with self-advocacy. Well, there are lessons on that. So you can target. And then they're week-long lessons. So it's not this just we throw up on you, right? We give you little bits of information, and just like we want to do with our staff, right? It all comes back to just kind of introducing little tidbits because you want to try it on, because it's like, oh, social emotional, they want to call it soft skills, right? But really it's your life. It's life skills. It is what we all need it, even as adults. Yeah. And so, but again, adapting it in that way, because sometimes, like if let's say a kid doesn't like the snail or doesn't like the puppy. Okay, fine, don't use it. Right? Like, I mean, or maybe they really like the interactive with the digital. That is something that has been really cool that I've seen, because there's still talking that you have to do to present the lesson, but sometimes our kids don't want to listen to us, right? Well, here you go. It's a nice little package right there. And it's just a little more interactive, which I really appreciate and like.
Great. So another thing you talked about was how you're kind of taking it from the PASS program and bringing it into the classrooms and support, and the teachers you work with and the paras you work with are supporting the program as well. What does that look like? How are your what is the role that they're taking on?
So some of the campuses, so I'll give one example. So one of my campuses, what we do is, because you can also print the actual activity out. Right? So let's say the teacher wants to know, right? And even if sometimes they don't want to know, we kind of show them so they can kind of see, you know, in real time. And it's kind of like you'd call it like an artifact, right? It's like a work sample, right? So you can show them exactly what they're working on. So then now they can tie that into their daily lesson. And it's like, oh, wait a second, this kid's already being set up for success, because it's not going to be the first time they've heard it. They actually heard it in their PASS class, but now they're actually hearing it again. It's like, okay, wait, so those real life connections really help that child or student, I should say, which again goes back to the professional learning that we offer as well. Again, helping make those connections, because we have SEL teams on our campuses, right? So professional learning is offered to all staff, right? But then you have your SEL teams on your campuses, and they are charged with taking that training back to those campuses. Well, you know, making those connections, just like we have to make for our students, it's really important to make those connections for our adult staff, because SEL awareness for adults, that's kind of where you have to start, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. It's very exciting.
Sounds really cool. You mentioned that you were seeing that you were seeing positive results for the students too. What are some of the effects of this work that you're seeing?
So one of the things, you know, you target, I mean, not you, but we would target, most districts would target, is, you know, higher attendance rates, right? And that speaks to kids feeling safe and comfortable and wanting to come to school. And I know the data is a little skewed at this point, right? Because sometimes we don't know, are they staying home because parents want them to home, right? But again, you want to have decreased out of school time, right? You want to really decrease some of those suspensions, but also in-school suspensions, right? You want your kids in their classes receiving that tier 1 instruction. And again, that's the piece that for us, I would say in Irving, we've seen with implementing and even having the awareness, the staff awareness for social emotional learning, we've seen some of those numbers decrease, which has been great. Real positive. Oh yeah, and then we've had a couple. Last year there were some student surveys and staff surveys that went out, kind of targeting or wanting to see what staff was wanting, what the students really wanted.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah. Because
what you
don't just want to just shoot in the dark. Yeah. They liked having a, they want access, to a more sustainable curriculum, right?
Mhm.
And there's so many out there, that's why, I love Second Step because that's what I've used. But I mean, as you know, and anyone in our Second Step community knows that there's a lot, I mean, all the things that, have been funneled into that community, even like with the
Mhm.
Bitmoji classrooms.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like just the coolest thing to see. It's like there's been so many negatives from the pandemic, but there's been lots of positives. And I will definitely say the awareness and spotlight that's been shined on social emotional learning has been huge and very impactful.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to kind of wrap this up by tapping into your accumulated wisdom that
Right.
you've done. I mean, you've done a lot of really amazing work, and
I
I
appreciate
think
that. But I've
there's
had
people.
the support from the district too, which has been
Well,
nice.
that's really cool.
Yes.
There are people who are watching this who are looking to do work that you're doing, or in similar spaces, or may just be considering kind of how to use Second Step and social emotional learning in the context that you're using it in. What's some advice that you would have? What's a nugget of wisdom that you've got for others that are doing similar work?
Right. I think I talked about a little bit before, is starting small, right? Because, and again, I don't want to sit here and say, oh, you only have one chance, right? No, because there's lots of grace, right? Which should be, especially during this time. But just, starting small, really starting, again, starting with the adult piece, because, and I don't want to use the word buy-in, right? Because it's not like, you don't want to just push it, right? You don't want it to seem like just one more thing, right? And so that's why I think starting small with your staff, building those SEL teams, and then also pairing that with those surveys. Because now, not only are you hearing from students and staff, but now you can take that back to your SEL teams, and then you can really start targeting those individual campuses, but then for the bigger district, because SEL isn't just for your campuses. It's for like your administration building. It's for I work at what's called the SPED Annex, but I mean, it's a community, right? And you want to work on building that positive culture. And it builds resiliency as well from that. And so I think my advice would be starting small. And I think, Irving, what we're trying to do is just that. Again, starting small with building those SEL teams and really providing more professional learning for those staff members to take back to their campuses and the community as well.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Melinda, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day. I'm sure you have lots of stuff going on. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and join us here in the Second Step community to talk a little bit about the work that you're doing. It's been fantastic to meet you.
Well, and I love what you guys are doing, even Community for Children and with Second Step and everything that is being done, regardless of whether there's certain House bills coming out that it's mandated, right? Because we do know that it's needed, but it goes beyond a mandate. And it's really for our whole, I don't want to sit here and say our whole country, but it's just really cool to be a part of. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just want to let you all know, we talked a little bit about our Second Step educator community. If you are looking to, if you're watching in the community right now, well, you already know about it, you're there, and thank you so much for joining us. But if you are watching on Facebook or on the Facebook page or on Twitter and you'd like to know more about our Second Step educator community, there's some information right here for us. Go to this link and learn more. We would love to see you all join us there. We'll be coming back with some more live stream videos coming up in the next few weeks, and look forward to seeing you all again. So until then, thank you all very much. Take care and stay healthy.